Hello, hello. Welcome to A Novel Console, a very special Games and Stuff episode that may or may not make it to Patreon, depending on our energies for the week or the weekend. Right now, they're pretty low, so it might just go straight onto main feed. With me today is Nick from Friday Night Gamecast. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm really excited to get back with you guys after having you and Carradine on the Friday Night Gamecast. So I'm really ready to talk some Final Fantasy with you, man. I got all the energy. I'll bring it. I'll make up for what you got.
Oh man, it's been rough. I am in a lot of pain because for some reason my left shoulder isn't working right, and I can't sleep well at night. And then the dog has coughing fits, or she has nightmares, and she wakes me up, and
that's a lot to deal with.
Oh yeah,
that's
and then people at work. So, but hey, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming on to talk Final Fantasy XVI. I know we touched a little bit on it during the record for our episode with you guys on Friday Night Gamecast. I wanted to talk to you since from the entire podcasting group that we're a part of, it seems that there's 3 people that are hype on this game. One of them is you. The other one is Eric from Unlockables, and the other one is me. The rest of them are like, it's cool. But none of them are like, holy fuck, this game is incredible, like we are.
It's so interesting to see kind of like the variety of voices that are kind of in our indie podcasting space talk about it. And even in like kind of like the professional like games journalism space, hearing people talk about this. And I get the sense, or I get the feeling that a lot of that does have to hinge on what are people's individual histories with Final Fantasy, and how much do their personal feelings and their nostalgia for kind of like the early pixel art games, or maybe some of the later 3D games that are, you know, more PS3, PS4 era Final Fantasy, like how close to home is that for those people? And then that's going to be the determinant on how they're looking at 16. Me, this is my very first Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy game ever that I've completed. So
have you dabbled at all before?
I have. Will and I both, when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, we put a good amount of time in. I would say that I am probably like 30 to 35 hours into Final Fantasy VII Remake. I got to the part where I believe his name is Don Giovanni, but the Cloud is trying to infiltrate his organization and like that underlayer and go through that whole rigmarole that you have to do with him. I fought quite a few bosses. I've done a lot of stuff. I think I have a significant amount of ways to go through Final Fantasy VII Remake, but playing this game has encouraged me to be like, there is a lot to enjoy here. Let me see what I can like get out of the end game content for Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, but these are 2 wildly different games, as you well know, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I started Final Fantasy with 3, which is 6 in Japan.
Okay.
I absolutely loved that game. After that, I fell in love with Tactics, but Tactics is a whole different beast. I used to think that 7 was fine. I used to think that 8 was fine. 9 was fine. 10 is only the combat is the only good thing about 10.
Really? Because I've heard several people talk about it. It's so funny. Every other person talks about every entry into the Final Fantasy franchise as this like the next coming of Jesus. Like it's the next best thing. I've heard people say 6 is the best. 9 is like the pinnacle. I always see 9 as kind of like a foundational standpoint that people stand on, because it seems to me like 9 has an incredible story, an incredible cast of characters. 10 goes either way. 12, I feel like people ubiquitously hate 12. I could be wrong about that, but I'm not quite sure if there's a fan base out there for people like that. I
think 12 is like split down the middle. Like it's 50-50, but like the 50 that like it are very, very quiet.
Yeah. Okay.
I know Dave Jackson absolutely loves 10, and I have a bunch of friends that think that 10 is the greatest RPG ever made. And mechanics wise, gameplay wise, I think it's fantastic, but story wise, I just cannot get into it. I've tried a bunch of times and I can't. But after I finished 16 this past week, I jumped straight into Crisis Core Reunion. Straight in, just to finish it, because I know it's a shorter game. It's about 10 to 15 hours. And I was
played on the PS5?
Yes.
Okay.
I was halfway through when I dropped it, and I picked it back up. And if you want more Final Fantasy, that's a little bit. I don't want to say that 16's combat is limited, because it's limited if you have like the auto items. If you want it to be a little bit more in depth with a story that's a little bit more, I don't even want to say emotional, because 16 is very emotional. If you want more great Final Fantasy, play Crisis Core.
Okay. So Crisis Core is good. That's so interesting. The gentlemen from the Kelvin and Rob from the Game Duo podcast, they've talked at length about Crisis Core, the remake, quote unquote, they put out, and they talked about how like it looks beautiful, it looks wonderful as like, you know, the modernization of that game that they were telling in the Final Fantasy VII storyline. But they also said that it just felt so archaic because of the voice lines, and they did no updating. They basically just pulled all of the audio from the old game and just smacked it onto that new disc or that new game file that they put out for sale. And I'm just curious as to like, as a legacy Final Fantasy fan yourself, like, do you think that it's worth somebody who doesn't necessarily have that same emotional connection to play something like that?
So they have the new voice actors for the Final Fantasy series redo basically the entire script from the original PSP game. So it has a lot of weird delivery, and the dialogue is weird. It feels very Kingdom Heartsy sometimes.
Okay.
But it doesn't feel like the fun parts of Kingdom Hearts. It feels like the very serious, kind of off-putting, serious parts of Kingdom Hearts. That's what most of the game is. Okay. And the game is incredibly emotional. And having that weird dissonance of how emotional it is with the weird delivery and voice acting kind of like kills the seriousness of it. If they would have been a bit more serious and updated all of that, I feel like the game would have hit the heavy, hard notes of these characters going through these changes or accepting their fates or whatever. It had made it a bit more impactful. But as it is, I think that Final Fantasy Crisis Core Reunion is the best Final Fantasy content out there. Final Fantasy VII content out there.
Okay. So even more than the 7 remake.
I love the 7 remake. I am not a huge 7 fan. I
got it.
There's a bunch of Final Fantasy VII stuff that I just don't care for, and a lot of the characters I can take or leave. But this is so, you get invested into these characters, and then you see what happens to them, and then you start 7 and you're like, holy fuck, these people are carrying all of this baggage, and you don't know, because you know, you either Crisis Core didn't exist at the time, or you've never played it, or whatever.
Right.
And have you heard about the ending of 7 remake?
I have. I know to the extent. See, that's the funny thing is I never played the original. I had friends of mine. I never owned a PS1, but I had friends of mine surrounding me, the periphery, that, you know, with the original PS1, the 4-disc, you know, monster pack that they used to sell back in the day, which I think is amazing for like game collectors. If you have that thing today, like it's probably a beautiful thing you could get, you know, artfully put into a frame, put on the wall somewhere if you really wanted to. But I think, yeah, like I heard that they are changing the universe, and that like the Final Fantasy VII remake is kind of like introducing the idea that, you know, people died in the original, without spoiling it for the audience. People died in the original, and then this time they're not. And it's kind of like entering into this territory of like Sephiroth is kind of like breaking the fourth wall. It's becoming meta and stuff like that. And that's why it was so interesting that we can get into a little bit later. We can get later about the ending of Final Fantasy XVI, and kind of, and I don't know if it maybe it's just these developers paying homage to 7 and like what 7 means, or if there are more implications around the fact and the idea that like the 7 remake is kind of breaking that universe a little bit. So it's interesting.
But I can see, I don't want to spoil anything for you. But you know how, I don't know if you played Resident Evil 4 remake, how that's a remake, yes, and it's retelling the story with changes to make it more appealing to the canon.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII remake follows the set path up until like the last 2 hours of the game, and then it just completely throws out the rest of the story out the window, and it's like
It breaks it
this
wide
is what
open.
we're doing. Yeah, this is what we're doing now, and it is fucking phenomenal. I know a
That's
lot
awesome.
of OG fans hated it. I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait for you to finish it so you can tell me if you liked it or not. Not knowing about Final Fantasy VII, the original game,
Okay.
because I think that it's pretty fucking great. And I was
That's
thinking
fantastic.
about replaying the original Final Fantasy VII on Switch because it has the no random encounters, the battle multipliers, the XP multipliers, so that you can basically blaze through the entire game and just enjoy the story. So I think I've been bitten by the Final Fantasy VII bug, and I think I want to go and do that next after I'm done with another game that I'm playing on Steam Deck.
Nice.
So let's jump into 16 because if not, this is going to be one of those tangent episodes. And,
Exactly. We want to break into it. We've covered our ground. Now let's dive in head first.
Oh yeah. So Final Fantasy 16 is a 2023 action role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix, the 16th main installment in the Final Fantasy series. It was released for the PlayStation 5 as a timed exclusive. The game features segmented open environments and action-based combat system involving melee and magic-based attacks. I am not going to read the rest of that, otherwise I will read the whole Wikipedia page. Basically, it was released on June 22nd, 2023, and a single-player game. And I enjoyed this game way more than I thought that I would, but I also went into it completely blind. What about you?
You know, when this game came out, I told my co-host of the Friday Night Gamecast, William, I told Will, I was like, I'm not playing this game. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to fucking do it. And I'm sorry for cursing. We can edit that out on the back end. But we're good. We're wide open on the show.
Yes. I don't give a fuck about cursing. People know what they get into when they listen to this.
Perfect. Yeah, the novel console. You know what you're getting when you sign up for it. But yeah, I told him, I was like, listen, man, this release schedule, this 2023 release schedule is killing me. I want to have a life. I have people that want to see me IRL. Sometimes I will occasionally want to get a breath of fresh air and touch grass instead of being glued into this same office chair that I work in so I can grind through some of this video game content. But I love it, and it's why I do it. But I was like, I don't have any grounding point with Final Fantasy as it is. And I just like, you know, I'm not invested. I'm not interested in. And, you know, we talked about it back and forth, and I listened to what people said in our community about it. And, you know, there were some people that were really hyped. There were some people that just weren't going to play it at all, kind of like me. That's fine. That's okay. And then I made the mistake of looking at it on the PlayStation Store and being like, oh, they got a demo. They got a free demo that you can download. And let me tell you, Chris, I have never played a demo that has sold me harder on a product, or let alone a video game, ever in my life. I have never experienced a piece of content that has sold me on something so hard, so fast. Because the demo takes like an hour and a half, maybe an hour and a half, maybe two at most, and it's just content rich. The acting in that first section of the game is indicative of a lot of the primary, like, you know, foundational scenes that you'll get later in this game, and it's incredible. It's visceral, it's terrifying, it's emotional, and I'm just like, holy shit. And I immediately, as soon as I was done, I went over and I bought it and I downloaded it to my PS5, and I was like, I guess I'm fucking playing Final Fantasy 16 because it sold me so hard. And it came out of left field. I was unprepared for how much I enjoyed it and how much it resonated with me, but it did.
Yeah, no, I get that. And especially since they do such an amazing job of world building in those first 2 hours. I cannot tell you how hard it blew my mind when I saw the dude just like hover his hand over the fire and water just came out of it and he put out the fire that way. Like, I was like, holy fuck, what is this world? This is so cool. And then it just goes into Clive's backstory of when he was a kid protecting his brother Joshua and what happened to the Phoenix and Ifrit. And dude, it felt next gen as fuck.
And I think like for me it was the performances, specifically, you know, what Ben Starr was doing and Susanna Fielding and everybody, and even the actor who played Joshua Rossfield, you know, Clive's younger brother in the very beginning. Everyone just like the depth of writing and the level of delivery of the performances. I've played plenty of JRPGs before. They're not typically my genre, exactly the reason why Final Fantasy hasn't really been my thing in the past is because, like you were saying about Kingdom Hearts earlier, it's the kind of the dull, esoteric, not really, I guess, visceral dialogue that they're writing for these characters that make you kind of feel disconnected with what's going on. It's like, you know, the idea of Organization 13 seems cool, but I don't understand why people are morphing in and out and like the difference between a nobody and a heartless. And that's very much indicative of what JRPGs have been in the past for me, with the exception of maybe, you know, the Yakuza franchise, right? Because they tell like legit stories.
Oh, yeah.
And in this time, of course, they're smacking you over the head with like this really deep high fantasy world, and they're throwing proper nouns at you left and right, and you're just really kind of you're eating it up. One thing that I do want to touch on in just the beginning and kind of my initial impressions of this game was the idea that the comparison that a lot of people had towards, you know, comparing this game to Game of Thrones. This was directly influenced by Game of Thrones, and I've done some, you know, research, and season 4 of Game of Thrones was airing, and the developers, you know, had bought the first 4 seasons on Blu-ray and watched it, and they had conversations about how much they watched it, and a lot of that is kind of, you know, you see that pulled through into the narrative experience of this game. But the end result of what Valisthea and the world of Final Fantasy XVI like is, for me, is like way different than the vibe that I get from Game of Thrones. And I get in my bag with that because I'm a little bit of a book nerd. I read like the books. I read all of the books. I'm excited for the 6th one to come out, and I've read a lot of high fantasy too. This reminds me a lot more of other series like the Seeker of Truth series that Terry Goodkind put out, you know. There's things like that he's made. Also, there's a whole lot, if you didn't pick up on it, there's a lot of allusions and kind of references to the Lord of the Rings that is in this that is in this game. And I mean, they literally call Clive Rossfield, the protagonist of this game, Mr. Underhill at one section of this game, and you're just like, okay, like we're just gonna go ahead and do that here. So it's like, I think it's a little bit of it's people say Game of Thrones because it's a great development, or rather marketing trick for the developers to be like, yeah, Game of Thrones, because everybody knows what that means who are like very casual content consumers. But Game of Thrones also turns a lot of people off because of like the depth and kind of the density of that content, and Final Fantasy 16 is a lot different in that regard, I think.
See, I didn't really see a lot of Game of Thrones on it. I had friends that would message me and be like, it's very Game of Thrones, you have to play it. I'm like, dude, I'm already playing it, but I don't see Game of Thrones. The only times that I would see Game of Thrones would be whenever Kupka, Bernadetta, Dion, the King, whenever they would be interacting and they would be scheming and plotting, and that council of people that worked for...
They're sitting at the table, they're having conversations about political machinations. Yeah, there is a lot of that. Yeah. That
I saw Game of Thrones a lot there. Other than that, I didn't really see a whole lot more of it. Mm-hmm. But whatever they watched and decided to pull from and then combined together it worked so well. I've really enjoyed it.
There's a ton of kind of other things that the developers pulled on as inspiration for this game, like Attack on Titan, like Neon Genesis Evangelion that you see there. Godzilla clearly looks like almost at shots 1-for-1 in terms of like looking at Ifrit and Ifrit's character design. Did you appreciate that as a Godzilla fan?
Yes, I did. Like every time like they would do a close up of his face and he would be like with fire coming out of his mouth, I was like, that is if the fucking Balrog and Godzilla had a baby.
Yeah. Exactly.
I just want to pet him. He is a good boy.
Exactly. And there's a very clear moment during, as I was mentioning earlier, during the prologue, there's a section of the game where you are fighting the Phoenix, the icon of the Phoenix, and as the character you're playing Ifrit, and there is a moment where the two of them are kind of locked in combat, and the camera pans out over this massive cavern as they're falling underneath, and it looks kind of like a star falling underground.
Yep.
That's a cut that they pulled one for one from
Lord of the Rings.
Fight with the Balrog from Lord of the Rings with him and Gandalf. So it's like there's a lot of really cool stuff that I love that is a touch point for me, that it's like, oh man, they're really hooking me with all of this right here, and I just need more of this.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I am gonna be honest. Let me see how much I gave it as a score for the game.
Okay.
I don't wait till the end of the episode to give the score. I gave it a 9 out of 10. The only reason I gave it a 9 out of 10, it's because the game was semi-open worldish, semi-linear, and I feel like it worked the best when it was linear.
Correct.
When you were going story beat by story beat and you were seeing everything happen, and it would be going, and I would be like, holy fuck, this is incredible. Then the open world stuff would happen, or going back to the hideout. Then it would kind of like lose all steam and just stop.
Right.
And then they would throw a bunch of stuff at you for you to do that, even though it helped with the world building and like creating all of these characters and like understanding them more and their motivations. While it was nice, I feel like I could have done without if they would have kept me hooked the entire time from start to finish.
You're absolutely right, and I couldn't agree more with you. And I'm a little bit harsher when it comes to stuff like that, and especially when it comes to pacing. I feel like the pacing for Final Fantasy XVI is incredibly unbalanced, and so as a result, for me, in my personal rating scale, and this is not something I typically do whenever I do review content for our show, but I gave this an 8.5 on my personal like spreadsheet. Take that for whatever you will, listener, but I like putting that on a 1 to 10 scale. This is a quintessential 8.5, with the highs being so high, with the highs of this game being higher than literally any other game I played this year. And I love Tears of the Kingdom, and I gave Tears of the Kingdom a 9 just for a lot of other various reasons. The highs of Final Fantasy 16 for me as a gamer and as a guy who appreciates high fantasy content are just the highest that I have engaged with this year. But the side quests and the inconsistency in the pacing bring it down so much for me. It's like I can't justifiably say that this is a 9 out of 10, 4 out of 5, because it's just it struggles so much, especially with the middle section of this game. They did really, really great at the beginning, and they finished strong. The finish to this game was incredibly strong, but them pulling the pieces together in the middle and kind of getting the understanding of like, okay, now I'm Clive Rossfield. I'm with this ragtag band of outlaws, and I'm just going to go from city to city, and I'm going to take down the mother crystals here and there. I think that it was harder for them to pull me through without more rich character development that they could have done through the side quests. The problem is that the side quests they were never, it was always just an iteration of, I'm going to go meet this NPC. They're going to go ask for something, which means I'm going to go find something on the map. I might fight something. Maybe I can avoid fighting something. And then I'm going to have to like bring it in. One of the things that I specifically wanted to call out on is the idea that like, it's the circular quest looping that they put in this game with the side quests, where it's like you start the side quest, they give it to you, and you always have to go back to that person that gave you the quest to turn it in to get the rewards. Where I feel like as modern gamers, we've evolved beyond that. It's like we get the quest, we go do the thing, we get the rewards. And if they kind of just did little small changes like that, it would have increased my enjoyment significantly, and it would have kept our playtime down a lot. It would have cut hours off of this game because there's so much time. Fast travel, you can't fast travel from anywhere to anywhere. I mean, you can, but like it's not necessarily.
There's still a degree
like
of you having intuitive. To move after you fast travel.
Right, you have to move through maps, and you have to get back to NPCs and that sort of thing. So it's one of those where it's very, very difficult to kind of ignore that, especially when the writing and the character development, like some of the ideas are cool, but the writing and the direction that they gave the voice actors for a lot of the side content is bad, and it's stark in contrast compared to the vocal performances that we get in like the main storyline quests. And what makes that even harder is that in the middle of this game, and I was looking through it because I was looking through like the quest lines, there's a point where you hit basically like the 20 or 30 hour mark of this game where they're like, okay, we're going to give you main quests, but they're all side quest material. Like all of that stuff with Midge, or mid rather, in the middle, I'm just like, okay, that's cool. Like just make me do one thing and then I can like move on with my life. Right. It also bothers me that like you're playing as this character, Clive Rossfield, who, by the way, incredible character design. 10 out of 10 Chad, like wonderful dude. Ben Starr, excellent voice actor, performed him brilliantly. But he is like, the character of Clive is kind of like the linchpin for this entire revolution that's turning this world over on its head. And you have people asking you, can you go down the road and get me a bottle of oil so I can oil my sails? And I'm just like,
right.
Actually, I'm like the leader here. So there's a dude like maybe like 5 feet over there that you can ask to do that. Like it doesn't make sense, and it feels like busy work, and I hate busy work in video games. I have busy work all the time in my normal fucking adult life. I don't need that in my gaming content, Chris?
Right. See, there's a couple of things that you said that I wanted to touch on. The first one was there was this quest towards the end of the game about this dude that wants to join the scouts in the in the group or whatever the fuck it's called. And
right.
He goes to this like fortress, and inside the fortress there's, I think, a griffin. You end up killing the monster, and they're like, oh, he must have ran away. Maybe he's not cut out to be a scout. And then he comes back, he's like, I got the book. And they're like, okay, but you ran away and got the book while Clive was fighting the monster. He's like,
but I did what you asked me to do.
And they're like, okay, we'll figure this out at the hideaway. I'm like, why not figure it out right here? Like, why do I have to go
Exactly. They're like, that's a perfect example of that circular questing loop where they're like, well, you started it at the highway, therefore you have to finish it there. No, you don't. You really don't. Like, you can just finish it. There doesn't need to be like this, like from a writer's perspective, like if I were sitting in the writing room, like, yeah, it would make sense if you had these little micro stories that you want to have like a beginning, middle, and end. But when you sit down and you talk to a game designer, they're like, literally asking someone to go back is going to add like anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes of the gameplay in this quest right here, like depending on how much like the NPC has to say when you get back to them, because sometimes they can be very long-winded.
Oh, it got to the point where I just skipped dialogue. Just
going because
I did not care.
Yeah, I have the subtitles on, so I can skim a lot faster than they can deliver those voice lines. So I am getting what they're putting down, but it's also like I got fed up to the point where it's like I like listening to the dulcet sounds of this English person is not as important for me to getting to the end of this game so I can move on to Jedi Survivor. You know what I mean? So that's that weird balancing act that you have to do as a gamer, especially when you're reviewing things. And that's a legitimate complaint, and that I think a lot of people will have issues with too.
I did have one massive complaint the entire game since it started till it ended. I had this one huge issue, which Crisis Core Reunion doesn't have. And it's an older game. It's a game from the PSP, and I think the PSP version didn't have this issue. And it's that Clive doesn't fucking run. He just does that jog. You don't have a button.
The jog.
He doesn't have a button to dash. Like, it happens automatically.
He sprints after maybe 5 seconds of running in a single direction, which is really annoying. It's very annoying. And when he's in, this is the same problem that I had with Red Dead Redemption that I'll talk about, and I'll argue with Will till I'm blue in the face, is that the game design of Red Dead Redemption, they want you to be immersed. They want you to live in that world. No, actually, I want to sprint through the camp so I can go talk to Dutch, turn in my stuff, and like go get the things. Same is true for Final Fantasy XVI. When I'm running around the hideaway, I want to sprint from one location to the other. Like, I already took all of my screenshots that I'm going to share on social media. I'm already living in it within the first 5 to 10 minutes when I showed up here. I don't need to just casually jog through this place every time I'm here. And that's another thing that might have just been a technical workaround, that like they had a lot of moving parts and something that they wanted to do to make sure that the beauty and the visualizations and the fidelity was as consistent as possible. Is they were like, all right, we can't have Clive running super fast in this area because it's going to create, frame skipping and things like that. I know that they had to do a lot of workarounds like that based on the Digital Foundry video that kind of put out talking about the performance of this game. So that might be an explanation as to why it doesn't make it any less annoying.
Right. But still, like, even if it affects the visuals or the performance or the frame rate or whatever, I don't care. I just want to go to Patches or the Loresman and have him tell me about why Torgal is hungry and what he wants to eat. Right. I just want to go do that so I can get that quest done, so I can get back to the other quest that I have to do. Yeah. So that I could get to the hunting, so that I could get to the item that I need to make a better weapon so that I can continue to the story.
Exactly. Like, and that's the thing too, is that I get the feeling, and this is something that I struggle with a lot, because in terms of JRPGs, the legacy of JRPGs is the idea that grinding is inherent to the experience. You are going to spend anywhere from upwards to 100 to 150 hours in this game just to get a base completion. And that is like one of the downsides of this game, is that it's a downside and an upside, because they do make side quests that give Clive actual perks that say, like, they make it clear and they give you side quests that either have a green exclamation point above the person, or it's like a bubble, like a green bubble with a plus sign. And when those side quests appear, they'll give you like healing potion expansions, or they'll give you upgrades to your weapons, that sort of thing. Like, for example, like a lot of the side quests related to the core characters, like the blacksmith, were great. They were really well written, and then they were fun. And then there were a lot of side quests where it's like Clive establishes relationships with these like city leaders in every city that he goes throughout the world, and he gets like, little pendants that you don't see, but you have it, and then it's kind of like, people acknowledge that you're like one of the homies wherever you're going, and like those quests, they can be hit or miss for me. But something that I kind of wish that someone sat down and said to me, or if I wish I read somewhere on Twitter that someone said, hey, don't do the side quests in Final Fantasy XVI. You can get through the main game if you're good at playing this game. Like, you don't have to grind. And I got to the point where I was like, oh, I might want to do the platinum. I'm just going to go ahead. And that's a me problem. That's very much a me problem. I was like, I might come back and do the platinum later, so I'll just do all the side quests so I don't have to do that at a later point through an entire New Game Plus playthrough. So that was a struggling point. Are you going to get the plat, or did you get the plat?
Oh, fuck no, I'm not a platinum hunter. The only platinums I've gotten that I've actually gone out of my way to get, it was just one, and it was the Spider-Man platinum. And
that's a great one.
It was because I was like, oh, I'm only missing like one trophy. Let me just go do it, and I got the platinum.
Yeah. Yep, that's usually where it lands for me too. I've become a little bit more of a trophy hunter the more I've been doing content, just because I'm like, ooh, I really like this game. I want to show it some of the respect that I think it deserves. And I do that with a lot of basically all the Insomniac games. I platinum all those games. And then obviously, like, I'm going to try to do a run for the plat for Jedi Survivor, because I'm a Star Wars fanboy. I'm a nut job when it comes to Star Wars. So I
hope they patched out the glitches that Jedi Survivor had on PS5, because some of them blocked trophies, and I couldn't do the bounty hunter missions, and there was the mission. Really? Yeah, I didn't do any of them. I fought all of the bounty hunters. I killed all of them, but I couldn't do the missions because the game glitched out on that. And it also glitched out on the treasure of the quarry, where you have to call down the animal, jump on its whisker, have it turn you around so you can jump. That one glitched, so I couldn't finish that one either.
Okay. I have read on Power Picks that they have patched out a significant amount, and like having it on my hard drive, like I see whenever there are updates to it. So it might be if you're willing to return to it, but whenever I'm like 3 months out of a game, it's going to take so much to get me to come back. It's just going to take so much.
I love that game so much that probably when the third one comes out, if it ever gets made, I will go through all 2 of them before the third one, because I that game made me like Cal Kestis, because the first one I could take him or leave him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You'll see it gets fucking crazy near the end. You will see how insane it gets.
It's already bonkers. He's literally this is a very much a tangent. I apologize, listeners, but this is not a Jedi Survivor review, but this is novel console. This is novel console, so we can talk about whatever the fuck we want.
I can't wait. You got to tell me once you finish it. Just message me and be like, "Hey, this." I'll be like, "Yes."
I will. You'll be the first person I reach out to. I will, for sure.
So going back to Final Fantasy XVI, I did all of the side quests, all of the hunting missions. Basically, if it was a checklist, I checked it off, except for like collecting all the items and going out of my way to do like whatever. Because I want, every time I play a game that has like side quests, I try to do as many as I can until I'm burnt out. And this one, I didn't feel burnt out, but I also didn't care about this character that wanted to get a book because his mother read it to him when he was a little kid, but it's already like hour 35 in the fucking game.
That's true.
But I did really like that you are basically destroying the world by destroying the mother crystals. And towards the end of the game, before you go destroy the last one, you get to pretty much put a golden brooch on every single town. You left them way better off than they were when the game started. Like the people in Lost Wing, they lost Lost Wing, but they also got the winery, and everybody now sees Quentin, and Quentin sees everybody now as his family. They're not, even though it wasn't slave owner and master and slave, now it's more like family. Even though before it wasn't master and slave, there was still kind of like that mentality in that town.
Yep. Exactly.
And same for all the other towns, pretty much. Like the town where Clive's master's wife lived that got attacked like right after Clive left, it gets filled with brand new people that bring the town back to life to honor the people that used to live there. I like that a lot.
I like that too, and it makes like the world of Valisthea feel much more lived in. I love the concept and the idea, kind of this game doesn't, I mean, I would say that Ultima, the character of Ultima, which is the main antagonist of Final Fantasy 16, is more of a MacGuffin than the I can't remember the noun that they use for it, but it's basically the darkness, the plague that's seeping into the world.
The blight.
And the blight, exactly. Thank you.
Good old anus eyes.
Right. And so I think like, his character design, the end of the game when he gets his armor and stuff, that was really cool. But I was just like, every time I look at I guess they wanted to evoke an emotional reaction out of the player, but like every time I saw him, I just felt very uncomfortable. He makes me feel uncomfortable.
It was his
which
eyes.
Is good for a villain. Yeah.
It was his eyes. Every time I saw him, it's like, he doesn't blink, and it looks like an anus with an eyeball in it. It's horrific.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. So I think they did a great job in making him very a reviling character and somebody that like clearly is just easy to fight. And that's one thing that I do love about Final Fantasy 16, that like a lot of other people in the genres that they're comparing it to, like, or a lot of other stories in these in this high fantasy genre, the modern way that they tell these stories is that there's always a morally gray area. And like this game does play with that idea a little bit, because it's like the whole concept is Clive is like the actions of what you're doing as Clive is kind of ruining the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, and you're causing massive immigration by removing these mother crystals that provided this resource to humanity that allowed them to, subject magic users or just use magic without actually being able to use magic without a crystal, and everything that was implied by that. And they play with kind of like the darkness, but it's very black and white when it comes down to it. Like there are very good guys in this game, and then there are very, very bad guys. And and you don't really have to feel concerned, or you don't really have to feel conflicted about doing the things that Clive is doing, just because it's like he's couched in this level of righteousness that I think is really fascinating too. I think
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that he knew that he was destroying the world by taking these crystals out. He knew that it was going to
Yeah.
be bad for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and I think like he was like his justification was in order to build the new world that both he and the original Sid kind of foresaw as something that they could use to lead this world into a new dawn, in a place where people are equals and treated as equals regardless of whether or not they use magic. I think it was interesting for him to say, yes, I recognize that it's going to be bad for people, but at the same time, like, you know, it's very Martin Luther to the extent where it's like you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet in terms of what he was trying to accomplish. And that's a really bad phrase or comparison. But at the end of the day, like, I found it compelling, and I found like the idea of what he was going for legitimate, and I genuinely felt like I was a part of the revolution as I was playing. Whenever you're caught in these kind of like world ending, life altering like things that legitimately have to save the world, you get lost in the scope of it as a player and as an audience member. And I didn't necessarily feel that because Clive is so central to the plot and to like what Ultima's machinations are based around. So everything that I was doing did feel like it was directly impacted to how this world was forming. I was curious as to kind of like the implications you said there, though, that, you know, at the end of the day, you left these cities and you left these towns better off than they were before. My understanding of the whole situation was that the mother crystals themselves were created by Ultima in order to create the icons.
Yes.
So he could eventually use he used Mythos to like revive his race of people, which I thought was a really interesting twist at the end there. I was like, okay, that's a cool little narrative twist. But like my understanding was that Clive and Jill and the whole team decided that if they remove the mother crystals, it would stop the blight from spreading further. Is that right? Is that what you took away?
Yes, because apparently what Sid said is that the mother crystals were sucking up ether, as much ether as it could. Right. Yeah. And when the ether is gone, then the blight comes because there's no ether to feed the life of whatever. So like you see like these valleys that are massive and completely dead because they're so far removed from where the crystals are that all of the ether there has already gone.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So Sid's idea was you kill the crystals, it stops sucking up ether, whatever ether is left will go back to where it's supposed to be.
Right. Right.
Which makes sense, but it also creates the ether floods, which is where, you know, giant pools of ether just stay there until they dissipate, and whatever's in there goes akashic, which is basically ether poisoning.
Exactly. And it causes, and whenever you go Akashic, and this was interesting too, the idea of, because you meet these characters or these things, they introduce the idea of like an ether flood early on in the game. And they're like, oh my God, it's an ether flood. We have to deal with the animals and the wildlife that was caught in that. And they become kind of these stronger, more dangerous enemies that Clive has to go and deal with in combat. That I thought was, you know, fun and engaging to play as a player. But like, I thought it was also an interesting thing that you learn later on that and that there are characters that have the ability, and well, technically it's really one character that has the ability through the power gifted to him by Ultima, I can only imagine, but King Barnabas has the ability to control the Akashic. And,
Fuck Barnabas.
And it's, yeah, right. Like I didn't like his character. I thought his whole storyline was dry. He was the weakest character at the end of the game. I felt like he felt kind of shoved into the story. Naturally, to me, it should have, like, the way that the storyline should have progressed was that, oh, you kill Kupka, because he was the one that had it out for Clive from the very beginning, and he was kind of like his fight. The fight with the icon battle that you have with a Titan, but by Hugo Kupka, is like one of the coolest fights in the whole game. And then I was like, okay, hell yeah. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to go, you know, help out Dion, and then it's going to be the end of the game. Wrong. You have like 15 hours of side quests to do, and then you have to go to an entire another continent and deal with all the stuff here. But it was that's again kind of circling back around to some of my issues with the pacing in this game. But yeah, like but going back to the Akashic and the idea of the Akashic floods, they do a really cool job of letting you know about the implications of like the flooding of the ether floods later on in the story, as like once 3 and then later on 4 mother crystals have been knocked out because of the heart have been destroyed by Clive and the team. So yeah, I like that for sure.
Yeah, no, the Akashic somewhat felt like the token zombie enemy that every game needs.
Yeah, the
But
White
also,
Walkers, if you will.
Right? But it also kind of serves its purpose of having the crystals destroyed, have it be like there is an actual danger to them being destroyed. It's not going to be all, candy and roses. It's
Exactly.
It has... there's consequences to destroying it. Even if the end results are going to be worth it, there's still stuff that you need to deal with now by doing this. And
right.
Man, Barnabas can eat a bag of dicks, man. Fuck that guy. He was so awful. Every time he showed up and started talking, I would zone out. And like I would zone back in. I'm like, this fucker is still talking, and I still haven't hit him in the face with the sword. And then
I was telling our friend Dave, I was talking to him about it, and I think we were talking in the Discord about his about Barnabas and trying to use as many spoiler flags as we can on there, but talking about the issue with him in that like Barnabas in his entire dialogue is exactly in my mind what I think when I think Final Fantasy prior to playing 16. And I was like, this is exactly the reason why I didn't want to play this game, because it's getting into this. He's trying to do this thing that they did in like The Matrix Reloaded, where it's like you go in and you meet the architect, and then he's throwing all of this jargon at you, and he's trying to have this like pseudo intellectual conversation about causality and the idea of will and why will is bad for man and all this stuff. And it makes sense because he's kind of like this deranged zealot, like he's a religious zealot worshiping Ultima as his god. And I thought that like the lore behind the kingdom of Ash and the people and kind of like what the people of Ash were subjected to, especially when you get in the castle and you realize how badly they were torturing their bearers, who the bearers are what we call the magic users in the world of Valisthea, like how badly they were treated and basically used as kind of like they were used as like meat for these monsters that they were trying to train for war purposes. And then you realize that the entire kingdom, slowly but surely after King Barnabas rose to power, was indoctrinated into the kind of this cult-like religion that worshipped the idea of going Akashic as like ascending to like, godhood, or ascending to kind of this
salvation,
the state. Yeah, salvation. Exactly.
Because when you get to Ash, it's the kingdom's pretty much already fucked. There's nobody left alive.
Right.
But you manage to run into this one side quest where there is a group of people trying to get salvation by becoming Akashic. And they succeed. They become Akashic, and they just go away. They go away, basically. Like,
yeah.
And there's nothing Clive could have done about it, because they didn't want to get saved. They wanted what they were told by their king and ruler and savior, Dick Boy Barnabas, that's what they had to do. Man, I fucking hate Barnabas so bad. Like it felt so insulting the first 2 times that you fight him. The first time he beats
you get
your ass.
owned.
Well,
the thing is that it doesn't make sense, because Clive has been absolutely demolishing every single boss that you've encountered. But then all of a sudden you meet this guy that's kind of like athletic looking. He knows how to use a sword. He's got the sword that can cut through anything, and he gets dunked on like both times that he fights this enemy until kind of later on in the game. And I'm just like, damn, why did they do him like that?
And like the second one, the second one is particularly hurt the most to me, because you're fighting in the middle of the ocean. The waves have been parted by fucking Barnabas,
which is cool. Which is that whole scene was cool, right? Did you like
really
it?
Cool. I loved it. It was great. And like you are handing him his ass the entire time, and then he goes into that mode where you have to knock down the entire bar so that he doesn't do his ultimate special, but you're not strong enough for some plot armory reason, and then he wins the fucking fight. And you're like, if he would have if they would have let me actually give him my hands, this wouldn't have happened. And then the third time, like you wreck his shit, like you royally wreck his shit, and I loved it.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess it kind of like felt artificial, right? Because
yep.
Clive is couched throughout the rest of this game, like even outside, because the combat itself, you're really, if you figure out how to play this game, and we can get in the combat whenever you're ready to, but like the combat itself is so multi-layered and dimensional, and when you really figure out how to make the system sing, you feel so powerful when you're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And there are so many scenes, even in like the animated cutscenes, where they kind of set it up to where it's like the understanding, yeah, this guy is really strong, he is really powerful, he's not like the rest of it. Even like the first time you fight Benedicta and she's like, you're nothing but trash, how dare you think that you can beat me? And Clive is just like, I don't know what you're talking about, man, and like slices her in half. Like it's scenes like that make me think Clive he's built differently.
Oh, yeah.
And then like the thing when King Barnabas shows up on the scene, he's set up as this big bad, but he doesn't really make a lot of sense when he's talking to you, and then his character just feels artificial, and then his weapon just feels like OP for no reason and kind of like exploitative and cheaty, and I'm just like, well, this will be really cool when I'm able to absorb and suck out this power from this dude,
right? And like,
but at the end of
like the thing is with the weapon, like the first time you encounter him, he shoots a beam of whatever at Clive, and he basically destroys every single, the way that I understood it, he destroys basically every single tendon in his body and doesn't actually
he one-shot him.
Right. And like the second time you fight him and he doesn't do that. And the third time you fight him and he doesn't do that again. And you're like, so did he just forget that he could do that? Or are we ignoring it because of plot? Or did he forget? Or is Clive anti?
Clive is a Saiyan. Clive is actually a Saiyan from planet Vegeta, and he gets stronger every time that he's defeated. So that's how that works.
Oh, I forgot what it's called. It's like it's not sparking. It's I forgot. That has a name in the Dragon Ball universe.
Oh,
but,
does it? I didn't even know there was a name for that. Okay, interesting.
Senkai Boost. He has a Senkai Boost.
Senkai Boost. He has a Senkai Boost. Okay, I'm going to have to remember that for next time. Yeah. No, yeah, there is a little bit. And I think like it was weird too, because I was trying to figure out in my mind the power levels. Like, here's a question for you as a legacy Final Fantasy fan, and this is something that we kind of glazed over at the beginning of the show. Obviously, you have icons, which are based on, it's just another word for all the summons that are classic in the Final Fantasy series, whether that's Bahamut, Shiva, Ifrit, Odin, all of them, Rahma, or Ramu, or whatever that you call it. Ramu, excuse me, yes. And like the icons in the previous games, did the icons, were they power leveled in different ways to each other, or is there like a canon way throughout the Final Fantasy series that Ifrit is stronger than Shiva, or for example, Odin is stronger than Titan, like that sort of thing? Or are they supposed to be like evenly power leveled? Is my question.
They are, according to the games that I played, because I haven't beaten all of them. Basically, you will somewhat meet Shiva and Ifrit at the beginning, and then towards later at the end of the game, then you will meet like King Arthur and Bahamut and Neo Bahamut and Odin and so on and so forth. Okay. So I really like that in this game they gave Ifrit the respect that he deserves, because he is a giant fucking flame demon, and you're gonna tell me that he's not gonna be as strong as a fucking giant dragon that shoots laser beams.
Yeah,
like we've never really had them fight until this game, and that fight was fucking amazing.
Oh my god, I would say even more, because the last fight that you have with Ultima in the end game is visually stunning and beautiful. But I would say in terms of hype and pacing and build up, like the build up to the Bahamut fight and kind of like the lore reasons for like why you're fighting were incredible. And also, not to mention that like this entire time, like kind of the crux of the story is Clive is trying to do this stuff to save the world, but at the same time he's trying to figure out what happened to his brother Joshua, because at the very beginning of the game they get separated. Clive thinks he murders Joshua basically for all intents and purposes. He genuinely believes at one point, he comes to the realization once Clive understands, oh my god, I am the icon of Ifrit. I'm the second icon of fire. I'm the one that killed my brother, because that's where the demo ends, is essentially with the battle between Phoenix and Ifrit. finalizing with the defeat of Phoenix, and he's like, you just hear the crunching of Ifrit
Like,
pounding on the
like
bird.
Ifrit just ripping like his chest out and all that.
Yeah, and so you have that understanding, and then like as it goes on, but the fight with Bahamut leads to kind of the reunion of Clive and his brother finally, once again, after they were for years and years ships passing in the night, and they're kind of surrounding the same intrigue, and they know what's going on, but they're both chasing different things throughout this time. They finally meet up, and they like, obviously Clive wants to step in, and then Joshua reveals himself, and then the hypest thing that I think I have ever seen is they have a Power Rangers Megazord moment where like Phoenix and Ifrit fuse together, and you have this like fire demon with wings, and you can move, and like the icon battle is just beautiful. And I had no idea Bahamut was this powerful. I was under the understanding that Bahamut, Shiva, Titan, they're all the kind of the same thing, but in Final Fantasy XVI world, Bahamut's basically like that guy. He's like one of the most powerful summons out there, with the exception of like what Clive is doing with Ifrit. So I thought that fight was just absolutely incredible. And you go into outer space. Like, are you kidding me? Like, forget about it. Like, it's insane. It's insane. I loved I love those moments.
It builds so well because it starts off with like, oh shit, somebody's attacking the city that we were going to sneak into to break the crystal in. And then it like devolves into like, everybody in the city is fucking dead. Your mother's new son, your stepbrother, is Satan himself, right? He gets killed by your adoptive brother, and your adoptive brother passes out, and he killed his dad by accident, and your mom kills herself, and in front of you and your brother, like you can't even enjoy that you're back with your brother because your mom decided to kill herself in front of you. It like that entire segment, and like the revelation of when Clive absorbs Bahamut, of Dion remembering what happened with his dad, all the way up to him losing his mind, is just fucking amazing. I will think about that for years to come. And after that, they throw you back into the fucking hideout to go fetch somebody some apples.
That is what we mean when we're talking about the imbalance, listeners, because it is just abhorrent that like they have not, I guess abhorrent is the wrong word. It's very disappointing for me as a gamer to go through experiences and to go through now. All stories need to be paced well. Now, all stories, like, you can't be at level 100 every time. You need to bring it back down to 50 or 60. So you kind of like, you normalize, you get back into the loop, but you have to work on the way that you're writing the side stories, or you're writing kind of additional content for this game, or you're writing the next storyline missions to where it's like, yeah, that was really hype. We're going to bring it back in. We're going to center it. We're going to make sure that the characters kind of have this direction. They understand where they're going. Okay, we need to go, slay a couple of dragons to bring dragon liver to your, cook at the hideaway so they can go revive a random recipe from 100 years ago. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, that's not, I didn't make that up. That is a legitimate side quest that you have to do at one point.
Oh, no, you have to figure out what dragon livers are, because they use a completely different name. So first you have to figure out what the ingredients are, and then go get them.
Right. Yeah. And so the thing is that the problem that you face with things like that is that I would be okay if they took out 95% of the side content. Like, literally, if they just left in the content for the side missions that give you additional pouches and give you upgraded weaponry, like all of the stuff that had to do with the smith that was at the hideaway, what is his name? I'm trying to look up. I have
Blackthorn.
Blackthorn. Yes, thank you so much. She saved me there, Chris. Yeah, like the Blackthorn, the smith, like his stuff was wonderful, and I loved his side stories, and it was very fulfilling to see this man, this very like traditionally like gruff kind of like dude who's just very short with Clive. Every time you talk to him outside of like main storyline content, kind of open up to you and open up about like himself emotionally, and then you learn his backstory, where he came from. I find all of that engaging, and if they were to do that with every single piece of side content and make it kind of feel good and feel interesting in a way that makes this world feel lived in more, that would be great. But they don't. And the end result of that is that, yeah, you're setting up this world and you're building a lot of lore, but I kind of just feel like a tourist that's going along for the ride at the end of the day, because I don't feel connected to what this means, because I don't care about the 3 cats that are missing down the road, or I don't care about, making sure that the bandits aren't beating up the transport guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like I said, like if they would have decided to have made this game linear, I would have been completely fine with it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Push it into a character action game. Make it Devil May Cry. Make it what it almost feels like. I would have been 100% into it, because a lot of the stuff that happens in the game would have been a lot more believable. Like when Clive cuts off Kupka's hands, which was insane. I was not expecting that.
That was intense.
Oh yeah, and then Kupka gets depressed afterwards.
yeah, exactly. I was surprised that he didn't kill Kupka outright in that moment. I was under the impression that that he was just gonna, let it be what it is and just kind of like cut his losses there and just put him down for good, which he eventually does. But I think like it's it's very indicative of kind of like the interesting writing that they put in there, and how I've said this about a lot of other games that are based out of Japan, is that they're getting to the point now where they understand Western audiences. And Final Fantasy XVI is a game that is designed and written for Western audiences. A little bit of trivia that I learned along the way is that the actual script for this game was written in English first and then translated into Japanese. Yeah. So they actually wrote it with the intention, like, we're going to make Final Fantasy for the people in the West that really enjoy these games, which is kind of like, I don't want to say blasphemous, but that probably is going to make people who live in Japan feel some kind of way, because of how centric Final Fantasy is to Japanese culture. But I found that like incredibly interesting and obviously very telling when the good moments of this game and the good moments of the story sing. But exactly like you're saying, like, I think, there's it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, in the regard of like, they got so much right in this game. There was a little bit that they got wrong. I'm willing to overlook it. But for people who are listening to this episode, trying to, if you've gotten this far, you've been spoiled by a lot of stuff at this point. But if you're listening and you're kind of debating on whether or not you want to pick it up yourself, you do have to make that determination and know that you're going to be putting in, depending on what you're trying to look for, anywhere from 35 to 50 hours in this game, assuming you're going to golden path it. And I think this game is very doable golden path. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, anybody's going to get distracted by the side quests or whatever. Nobody's going to like 100% golden path it unless it's their second playthrough. Right. But I'm going to say that I had fun the entire time. I wouldn't say that there was anything particularly where I was like, I want this to be over, because at least the game lets you skip the dialogue that you don't care for.
Right. That's true.
So if it wouldn't, then that would be a problem. But
yeah. I think like what? Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. I'm going to change the topic once you're done.
Well, I was gonna do the same thing, and I was gonna kind of transition into what I thought was kind of one of the most compelling ideas about this game, and that's the combat. You were talking about, you never got to a point where you felt like, I wanted this to be over. And I have to agree with you to a degree. There was definitely points where like I was in the middle of side quests and I was like, fuck, I really don't want to be doing this right now, but I guess I have to do it. So, to hell with it. We're just gonna ball out and do the best we can. But I think like I got to the combat in this game is so good. So first of all, shout out to Ryota Suzuki. I do not have a lot of legacy in Devil May Cry, but he is one of the principal game designers in the Devil May Cry franchise. They brought him on to design the combat in Final Fantasy XVI. It was a thing that he said multiple times when he was referring to the idea that Final Fantasy XVI is kind of like the combat system that he created for it was his greatest work. Like he said that multiple times, and I don't know if he really means that or if it maybe was a promotional thing that they were doing, but at the end of the day, this is very, very good. And the combat it's going to be as deep as you're willing to let it be. There is so much depth to the systems that he layered into this game. I will say that I'm not an alpha gamer. I'm not super big in terms of like fighters, but this is getting me interested in the idea of fighters. I did play with the training wheels, the kind of the assist rings that they give you at the beginning of the game for a little bit.
The entire game.
You did the entire game, and I think that's okay.
I tried to take them off and like do it by myself, like do the actual work on my own, but I couldn't exactly figure out how to turn off all of the assists. So I just turned them back on and left it and just went through. But if I don't know if there actually is a way to turn off all of the assists, but if there is, the combat system in this game is deep. It's very deep. And they don't really teach you. Oh, no. And like the thing is, while you're playing it and it's on automatic, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't look flashy. Because it's like sword swing, fireball, sword swing, fireball, sword swing, fireball, like the heavy combos. And then your special moves. But if you turn off all of the training wheels and you're just like doing everything hand by hand by doing the button combinations, it's a lot of work just to get like a crazy combo going. The first time I hit a 50,000 damage combo on a downed enemy with the automatic training wheels, I felt like I had pulled a triple S rank on Devil May Cry because it was insane. And then I hit 100,000 combo on another downed enemy. And I was like, holy fuck. The combat is
incredible. The combat is insane. The way that they set it up, and so here's the thing, is that I'm kind of like you, Chris. I was very much to the point, like I probably went through half of this game with the assist rings on before I sat down with a good friend of the show of mine, and he was like, listen, man, let me see if I can Sherpa you into playing this game they meant you to play it. And so I was like, okay, I'm always willing to learn. I'm always willing to try my hand. And I probably, if I got frustrated, I would have turned it back on. But he taught me essentially how juggling is kind of like inherent to the idea of this game, and using your X and kind of using your ability moving from X to square to Y, and then using Torgal in order to chain combos at the same time makes it look very cool. And at the same time, it's also like situational, and it's about building a loadout. So the interesting thing about Final Fantasy XVI is that for every icon battle that you have, at the end of that battle as Clive Rossfield, when you defeat that enemy throughout the story, he absorbs part of their power for the icon. And what that ends up doing is it gives him moves of the tree. And that's how you start building out the skill tree. And as you progress through the game, you gain more and more powers of the icon. So first, obviously, it's the Phoenix. And then it's going to be not Shiva, but rather it's the wind one.
It's the Phoenix, Ifrit, Garuda.
Garuda, excuse me. Yeah, you're right.
Ramu,
Garuda is the wind one. Yes. Ramu is the electricity one, and there are very, very deep spoiler reasons as to like why Clive gets each of these powers and abilities, and they usually mean because somebody's dying or because he defeats someone, which is really cool.
Or they voluntarily give it up. Like Jill did.
Exactly. Yeah. And so Jill, they have that relationship later on, which I thought was really cool. And her, like the Shiva abilities, oh my God. Once I got the Shiva abilities, it was game over. But the cool thing is that in terms of the combat, they give you as the player a lot of versatility in terms of they don't penalize you for experimenting at all. They give you everything that you need. And if you're like, oh, I don't like this, or I've tried out this move and this doesn't really seem to work for me, you can refund those abilities and put them back into your pool of like your ability like points, and then reallocate that to another thing. And what happens is that you have essentially 3 slots that you can assign main icons to, primary icons to. However, once you gain enough ability points, as you get later on in the game, you can master certain abilities, which means, for example, say that you have Phoenix in your first, first icon slot. You can choose to have Phoenix abilities, or you can choose mastered abilities from Shiva, from Titan, from Bahamut in that same row. And so what you're doing is that you're taking the best of each of these kind of powerful kind of these power play slots, and you're mixing them together in really cool ways. And what I found that doing is that allowed me to kind of move around the maps, play with enemies in different ways. Like there's a very specific Phoenix move that I loved called Heat Wave, because what that does is that
where
that's
where he basically goes Super Saiyan.
No, that's actually that's the Rebirth. I think it's like Flames of Rebirth is what you're talking about, which I use all the time.
Oh man.
But Heat Wave was the one where it's a low cost icon ability that's in the Phoenix skill tree, where if someone shoots a projectile at you, if you can use it normally to hit someone far away, but if you use it in tandem of an incoming projectile, what Clive will do is he'll slash through that, and then he'll do his ultimate, like a super move that will send like all of that damage back to the enemy or to the character that threw that projectile at you, kind of doubling it. And it's super cool. It's flashy. It's cinematic, and all of them are based on ideas like that. So they have these hidden layers within the combat that if you use them at the right time in the right way. Same thing for Titan, like one of the famous Titan abilities that they showed off in some of the showcases. If you use it as a parry in the incoming attacks, Clive will do this thing where he's sending like a billion punches. Exactly. He does the ora ora. He does the ora ora. Yeah, like as he's fighting the other people, which is really cool. And then there's another one where he's kind of like, and Ben Starr does like a lot of the voice acting for the different move sets, where it's like there's one Titan move that's, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a giant hammer, and every time he does it, he does a grunt like and like as it's slamming into the carriage. It makes me feel so good every time it happens. But
oh yeah,
like the interesting thing, and I don't know if you had a lot of if you enjoyed God of War Ragnarok, but this combat system reminded me a lot of God of War Ragnarok with added depth.
I got tired of the God of War Ragnarok combat system.
Interesting. Okay.
I was ready for. I was going through the end of the game, and I was ready for the game to end. Yeah, I was ready for the game to end 5 hours before I finished it. And
Interesting.
I was ready for Final Fantasy XVI to end, but I wasn't tired of the combat. I was enjoying the combat because the combat felt like, unlike God of War, whenever you would hit an enemy, there was weight behind it, and the enemy would react accordingly. It wouldn't just stay there and tank the hits while hitting you like in God of War.
Exactly.
I loved it. Like I said, I wish they would have gone full character action game with this and made it flashier, because I would have loved to see Clive like doing spins and pirouettes and all the fucking crazy anime shit that they do in the Devil May Cry games.
Right.
But it was a very, very good and satisfying combat. Like there were encounters that were like, oh, we need to send an army to take care of these monsters, and just Clive goes, does the fucking Super Saiyan Phoenix attack, encounter's over. Because you're so fucking overpowered that you can one-shot everything.
Yeah, I loved those moments, though. I love those moments where you're surrounded by like somewhat mob enemies, and like it's even for side quests. I did that multiple times in side quests where it's like, oh, you got to go over here to do a thing. I was like, all right, I start the combat encounter, I pop my Flames of Rebirth, everyone's dead, everyone's just done for, and that's amazing. I love that. Yeah.
And there was when you're going into Ash, when you've reached the first garrison and all of the monsters just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. I had Bahamut's the beam that he shoots, just a straight beam attack. I had it maxed out, so I had mastered it, and I just stood there in the corner and just like shot it, and just everything that was coming out was just dying and dying and dying, and that felt so fucking good. The game knows very well how to do the power fantasy of I'm fucking untouchable.
It's so funny though, because it's like there's that aspect to it where it's like it feels great, but at the same time it kind of like it's a little game or world breaking for me, where at the beginning of the game, you're kind of like Clive Rossfield. You got a sword slash and a little magic attack, and you're good to go, and you're ready to kind of take on the world. And then as you progress through the game and you gain these powers of basically literal gods, like the gods of this world, and you get into like the later game, and again, you're getting into more side quest content where you got to go fight bandits, and then you like pop a Giga Flare on like 2 bandits that are trying to approach you, and you're like, you feel like that was like way more overkill than you actually needed, but at the same time it's still kind of funny and it feels good, so you're just kind of like, you're like, okay, whatever, I mean, that's fine. I saw a comic when this before I even started playing, when this game first came out, and somebody was like putting it in the perspective of Torgal whenever before you realize Torgal is also like an icon, and when he's looking up at Clive, when Clive goes into like Super Saiyan Phoenix mode, and he's like and like everything is burning around him, and he's just like, I'm just a dog, I'm just chilling here. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good reaction, because I'm like, yeah, what would you do if you were a dog and your human companion burst into flames, so that's fun.
I gotta say, man, that the combat was just so much fun. And Torgal, what a good boy, man. Except for the 2 missions where you have to go get him food. Those were I
fuck you, Torgal. Get your own damn food.
Like super badass dog, and you can't get your own food. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. What is this? What are you doing here?
So, apart from the combat, which I absolutely enjoyed, I really loved the characters in the game. I feel like I liked a lot of the characters more than I liked Clive, to be honest.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I absolutely loved Sid. Like every time Sid was on screen, it was like Man Crush Monday all the time. And like,
I love that.
The scene where the part where you're going with Sid to destroy the crystal is the first time you encounter Ultima. That whole segment with him, it just felt like 2 brothers going off on an adventure, and it was great. It felt like a condensed Uncharted 4, but in Fantasyland, because they, with the banter and the way that they treated each other and everything, it was great. I loved it. And the part where where Sid is like, we're gonna need a bigger sword, and Clive says, I have a bigger sword, and Sid looks at him and says, it was being metaphorical. Great.
Yeah. No, it's so good. Yeah, Ralph Ineson, the guy, like, he has really, I mean, he popped off for 2023. I bet you the man didn't realize that Diablo 4 and Final Fantasy 16 were going to make as big of a splash as they did.
He is in Diablo 4 too?
Oh, yeah, he's one of the main characters in Diablo 4, so he really absolutely killed it. So if you haven't played it, Chris, if you're a Diablo fan at all, highly recommend if you just want more Ralph Ineson content.
It's on the PlayStation. It might come out this Friday because of Armored Core, but it's in there.
FromSoft, ew, gross. No, I'm kidding.
Listen, we dig giant robots. Everyone digs giant robots. Chicks dig giant robots.
Oh, absolutely. I have an Evangelion desk mat on my desk right now in front of me, so I'm right there with you. I'm a Gundam Wing boy. I grew up. I cut my teeth on Gundam Wing, so I'm right there with you. I'm just kind of trolling more than anything else when I say that. Fires of Rubicon Armored Core 6 looks incredible.
All I've seen about it is like the snippets that they put on the ads on Twitter. And that's enough for me. Yeah. I don't want to see anything else because I am already hype and I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
But the other characters that I absolutely loved, I loved Byron so much. Byron was fantastic.
The Uncle Byron, right?
Byron. And
he was so funny. He was so good.
Great. Yeah. It's great. And Gav, absolutely love Gav. When he says goodbye to Clive and he starts crying, I was like, oh fuck, dude, don't do this to me. I can't deal with this right now.
And that's what's so frustrating to me is that the last 4 side missions, like it was the Torgal side mission at the very end. I loved that one. I loved Jill's final side mission, and then you just said his name. Oh my God, this guy.
Gav.
Please edit this out. But Gav's final side mission at the very end of the game, they're all so good.
Oh, yeah.
They're all so good, and they're so well written and believable, and the characters just like make you feel, because they know that Clive is about to jump on the back of Bahamut and go on this one-way trip, and you're like, oh my God, like this is what I wanted the entire side quest content for this game to be. This is literally what I wanted. Why didn't you give me this to me the entire time? It's like they had an A team and a B team work on the quest together, and I understand that game dev is hard, and I understand writing is difficult, but I wanted more of that so much, and I'm upset that I didn't get more of that. But still, it doesn't make the good parts any less good.
Oh yeah. And that the other character that I absolutely loved was Dion. Holy fuck, what a great character. I feel like we got gypped by having him only be in like the final half of the game, just be not enough. Like he wasn't enough in the game, but every time he was on screen, he was fucking awesome.
I completely agree with you. I like, if we could have skipped all of the stuff with Barnabas and just added more Dion content, I would have put that in there, because I'll agree with you. Dion was like actually my favorite character in the game, second to Sid for sure, because it was he's so cool, and like the way that he comports himself and kind of the lore behind who he is and how he carries himself is just so great.
Oh yeah, no, he is fantastic. Like, when you're introduced to him, you just see him as Bahamut, just laying waste of stuff, go back to his tent, have a drink, go back out. You're like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
I'm going to have
He's
to
like
fight that guy at some point and kill him. And then you've had the best fight in the entire game against him. And then you end up being friends, and he helps you with the final confrontation. And when he dies, it was one of those, that is a great death. He did what he had to do, and it's done.
Yeah. He sacrificed himself in a way that mattered. That's one thing that I don't like in a lot of games that are kind of in the same, genre, in the same category, that I don't particularly appreciate, is when they, like, it seems like they sacrifice their life to try and put a dent into like the big bad, or like make an opening for the protagonist to do what they need to do to save the day. And then it just ends up doing nothing. And they're like, what is this garbage? That's not the case here. Yeah. And I think all three, like the sacrifice that the three of them make at the very end of the game is just, it's very beautiful. And the idea that they all three of them knew that like they weren't really coming back from this journey as soon as they were, sailing into Ultima's domain at the very end of the game. It's just, it's meaningful, and it's meaningful in a way, and it's great because like you were saying at the beginning, you meet this guy and you're like, oh shit, he looks like he's going to be a problem. Like this guy is going to be an issue that I'm going to have to deal with later on in the game. Like this is not going to be an easy fight. And it's true, it wasn't an easy fight whenever you like met him on the battlefield, but at the same time, they did a great job of, again, going back to one of my earlier callbacks, making it like a morally frustrating fight for you as the player, because you're like, fuck, I really like this character. Am I going to have to kill this guy right now? And the gameplay and the combat and the visuals are so engaging that you're kind of like, fuck it, we ball anyway. Like, we don't even care at this point. But at the same time, like, I'm just like, God, like Dion Lesage, what a cool character. And you makes him feel for you after, obviously Isabella, I think her name is like Isabella Rossfield, goes and she becomes part of like she becomes the Emperor's new wife in the in that empire, in that domain. And so I just thought that it was like him setting up himself as like the leader of the Dragoons, like the Dragoon Knights, and the lore behind the Dragoon Knights too is like how they're like some of the most powerful forces throughout the land. I was like, oh man, this is so awesome. I eat all of that up with a spoon.
So great. And when you fight Dion and he's laying there unconscious, I was more focused on him than what was going on. The entire time I was like, they better pick him up and take him with them, because he cannot die here. And if they leave him, he needs to survive. He cannot die. This cannot be the end of Dion. And thankfully it wasn't. They took him with him because Joshua owed him.
Exactly. And it was really cool because you see these interactions, obviously, between Dion and the kind of the political intrigue that's going on in the Empire after, Isabella gets impregnated by the Emperor and they have the kid, which is just a, kind of a cipher for Ultima and everything. But the respect that is shown between Dion and Joshua, like he walks in and he's like, "Oh, welcome, Phoenix." Like they talk to each other like they're old friends, like they knew each other, they grew up together when they were kids, which is very much like Game of Thrones, which is very much like Lord of the Rings. Like these people know each other and they respect the power that each other kind of wields. At the same time, they're like trying to figure out, well, what am I going to have to do that's going to be in the best interest of my country? That's where this game really gets in its bag with the way that the story is written, because it's that character dynamic that is depth and multi-dimensional. It feels real and lived in, and that's why he's a good, cool character to me. And it's his thing too is a dynamic, or just kind of an aspect of Dion's character is like he does not care like what cost is going to be for him. Like when, and especially once he realizes the gravity of what he had done, A, he killed his father, and then B, when he went into his blind rage as Bahamut, he basically destroyed the kingdom and like all of his people, and the weight of the guilt that kind of leaves him after he kind of comes to and realizes what he's done. And I was like, this is just so brilliantly written. I love
the
that
thing
part.
is, he wasn't technically responsible for it, even though he did destroy everything, because Ultima did something to him. I don't remember exactly what, but he was under Ultima's influence the entire time until Clive and Joshua hit him hard enough for him to forget.
Exactly. I guess that's virtually what was happening. I kind of it is a little bit of a gray area. I kind of left that up to interpretation. My idea was that like he was so overcome with grief and confusion and anger that it was the same, like he went through the same thing that Clive went through when he first ascended to his icon status. And like, I think they talk about it a little bit, about the power of the icon can overwhelm the holder, the person who has that summons within them. And I think that's exactly what happened.
And it did happen, because it happened to Benedicta, and it happened to Kupka.
Yes, exactly.
Kupka,
yeah, because the fight with Hugo Kupka, he becomes like a huge titan at multiple points, but the very end of the game, it's basically when he was like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to become this mega kind of this kraken of a titan. Like it looks like he looks straight up like it reminded me, have you ever seen the Wrath of the Titans movies that they came out with back in the 2010s? It was like Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titans.
I saw the one with Henry Cavill.
That was a different one, but it was in the exact same time frame. So you're right on the money. You're right on the money in terms of the time frame. But it's like he reminded me of like some of the characters that they designed for it, and like the Cyclops and some of the other monsters. But yeah, it was so cool. And the fight at the end there was just like some of the most intensely hype anime moments hit you in this game. And I know that we're retreading old ground based on what we talked about, but it's just, it needs to be said. It needs to be heard.
You can't convince me that this game is not a shonen. This game is right there with Dragon Ball Z and Bleach and Naruto and Yu Yu Hakusho and Kill la Kill. Any shonen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is a shonen.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you about the progression of kind of like and kind of getting into like the nitty gritty, the progression of the Clive as a character and as a hero. When we talk about shonen, I'm thinking about, how the hero levels up progressively throughout the narrative. And the way that I saw that was through the swords. And the different, because they don't give them new armor. They don't give them a lot of customization. You have more customization options as the player, but you don't get a lot of, like, you don't see anything visually change besides the sword he wields. Did you have any of those favorite swords throughout the game?
I really, really liked the last one.
Okay.
So you get one after you finish Blackthorn's quest. It's like the super sword. And then he's like, oh, we figured out how to make a super sword. That one was insane. Okay. And like the elemental ones, like the ice one, the fire one, I think there was a wind sword. Those were like, holy shit, those swords are cool as fuck. And there was one that was literally just like a long paddle, a long metal paddle with like 2 points like that in a V shape at the bottom.
Yes, that was my favorite one. That was so cool. It was like this giant, it looked like maybe like a club, like a giant mace, but it was like honed on the edges, and it had the 2 points at the end. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it, but that was great. Yeah. The Invictus one, which is basically like the one that you get after you get your dad's, outfit. Because for the longest time in the very beginning of the game, you have to go through like 20 hours of this game wearing your slave outfit, basically, because you become like a slave for the Empire. And then finally, once you kind of hit, I believe it's the village that's in
Rosaria.
in the Rosaria that you hit, and they're like, oh, this was your dad's stuff. Like, this is, I think it's Eastpool when you go back to Rosaria finally, and they're like, this is something that your dad used to wear. You should probably take it. And Clive puts it on. It fits him perfectly. All that stuff. So, but yeah, no, the Invictus sword that you get with that, I thought was really cool, which was the same design for the endgame sword that you get, where you get like, it's basically the ultimate weapon, and then the super sword too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was great.
I don't know if you noticed, but after you get that his father's clothes, every time there's a cutscene where he shows the sword and the cutscene is not in game, he has that sword that they give you with his father's clothes.
I did notice that, and it bothered me because every other cutscene, it felt like I was like, oh, normally it shows the sword that I equipped to Clive. Why is it not showing me the one that I want to use? But it's just like, I guess it's canon because that's the canon sword, right?
There was one that I absolutely hated the way it looked. I fucking hated that sword.
For me, it was the coral sword, and it was stupid because it was like this little thin twig looking thing that looked like black metal, and it didn't fit the sheath that Clive puts on his back. Right. And I was just like, why would they make it? It would just be rattling around as he's like running through the world. Why would they? Those are just a really weird design choice.
It was that one, and then the other one was it had like it looked like the handle and I think it's called the tang, looked exactly like his dad's sword, and then it's just a katana. I hated the design of that sword. That sword was so fucking weird looking. Okay. I did not like it. And then you actually get the Masamune in Ash, and you can have Sephiroth's sword the entire game if you want.
You can?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. Is that a side quest?
No, you're just like running around and you find it in a chest. Yeah.
See, I need to go back and I need to look at some of that. This is why I haven't deleted Final Fantasy XVI off of my hard drive, because there's little pieces like that I need to go in and take a closer look at.
Yeah, you can get the Masamune. I don't know if it's upgradable, but you can. And I think there was like pre-order bonuses where you could get the sword from Final Fantasy I and Final Fantasy II. It's like the red
cool.
The red curved sword and the blue sword. But they're pretty much useless after you meet Shiva. So you can only use them at the beginning. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. That makes sense.
All right. So I actually had to run away, but I'm back. I don't know if Nick has been talking by himself or not. But anyway,
I haven't. I've been silent.
You did not entertain the listeners. Come on, man.
Listen, they got to pay for that. They got to subscribe to my Patreon for me to entertain. You know what I'm saying?
Which reminds me, I need to do that, dude. I told Carradine when we recorded, I got to subscribe to Nick and Will's Patreon. And every week I'm like, I need to subscribe. I keep forgetting. So I'm going to set an alarm.
Okay. You don't have to.
No, I have to, because we got to support the homies. So Friday morning, I'm going to do that because I cannot keep forgetting. Anyways, so I think we're ready to jump into the ending of Final Fantasy XVI. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we talk about how it ends and our feelings and all that?
We talked about the combat. We talked about kind of the character progression and just the boss battles. So I feel like we've touched on pretty much everything in this game in a little bit of a disjointed manner, but I think we covered everything for the listeners. So I'm ready if you are.
Okay. So, everyone dies. Dion dies. Joshua dies. Clive dies. Ultima dies. Sid has been dead for 6 years, apparently. Wow. Awful. Fucking awful.
I was very disappointed. I understand Joshua dying because Joshua throughout this game was at death's door. Like, the fact that he made it to the end of this game was a miracle in of itself. I was going to be surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised if it would have made a little bit more sense to me if like Joshua, if Barnabas was, they built Barnabas up as this such a great and awful, or rather just terrifying enemy, terrible character, but terrifying, OP enemy that Joshua would have to sacrifice himself to kill him. But they ended up defeating him anyway, without necessitating that, and so you managed to overcome him and Joshua surviving the event. But Joshua is coughing up blood the entire time throughout the game. As soon as you see him as an adult, he was already a sick kid to begin with, and that was kind of like the impetus of the relationship between him and Clive at the very beginning. Is he was a very sick little child. The mother didn't want him out doing things, but Clive had promised to protect him no matter what, always. Mm-hmm. So it didn't surprise me that Joshua died at the end. I was very upset that Dion had to kind of bite it at the end as well, to be like, we need, because you have like, if I'm not mistaken, there's like 5 phases to the Ultima fight at the very end of the game. It's like, he goes through multiple power-ups. It's like the Frieza fight between Frieza and Goku in the original, the Frieza saga of Dragon Ball Z. It's like there's 4 or 5 transformations of Ultima as you get through it. But I'm a little bit torn in how I feel about the story as a whole, because I feel like when I think about it and I go back and I objectively look, like maybe the writing was on the wall the entire time when it comes to the way that they set up the story, and kind of they set up Clive as this tragic hero, this tragic anti-hero protagonist that you're, becoming, in that he is such a powerful character that, power cannot inhabit one person that much without it kind of having its negative consequences. But also Clive's whole shtick throughout the entire time, like basically everything that Clive has said to all of the characters that have opposed him throughout the game, is that you can't control people, and you can't tell us as humanity the direction that we need to go. Even if you're God, even if you created us, like, you made a mistake because you underestimated how powerful we are and the spirit of man, like the spirit of humanity as a whole. Like this, and that is what he embodied. And so to see him basically surpass his limits, go, in My Hero Academia terms, plus ultra Kaioken times 20, at the end, in order to overcome Ultima, which was great. And it felt good when he was doing it, but to see him kind of like fade away at the end there, he falls down, he lands on the beach, and you see the curse has finally caught up to him, and you see his hand kind of like frozen. It's really, really sad, and it was upsetting for me in a lot of ways. And I was just like, God, they made me really care about and invest in the character, and I was expecting him to come back and be with Jill at the end there and say, and they live their life together, and he restores the kingdom of Rosaria, and you didn't get that. And I guess in a way it was bittersweet, but like you were saying earlier, he left every place that he came to and better than when he found it. So that's the legacy of Clive Rossfield. I wish it wasn't a tragedy. If I was the writer in that room, would I have written as a tragedy? Maybe not, but I think it's memorable. Like, I'm never going to forget the ending of this game, right?
Right.
What do you think?
So it's implied that Joshua lived, because after the fight with Ultima, Clive heals his body, and then did you see the post credits movie, the scene where the kids are playing around?
Oh yeah, I did see the post credits, and that he wrote a book.
Yes.
Wait a second.
Yes.
Oh my God, I totally forgot. I blanked that out. So he survived a little bit longer. So
it's implied. It's implied. It's not confirmed, but it's implied that he survived because, there's a book now about all the Aeons, not the Aeons. Aeons are in Final Fantasy.
The icons, yeah.
All the icons.
Okay.
And Clive Rossfield and all that. So it's implied that he survived. If he died, man, that's fucking sad. That's terrible. And
yeah,
because Clive died too, and Dion died, and basically the only ones that know about all the sacrifices and everything that happened are the people in the uh, hideaway, and not even
Right.
everybody in the hideaway. Like only the important people, like Jill and Gav, and Blackthorn and
Otto. Yeah.
right, and fucking what's his name, Goots.
Goots.
There was a couple of missions there with Goots where I was concerned that he was going to get killed. And I am
Really?
glad that he didn't, because Goots was fucking great. I loved Goots.
Yeah, Goots was awesome. What a fantastic character.
Oh yeah, so much fun. But I'm glad that Ultima got his ass handed to him royally. He got the dog shit beat out of him multiple times, and he still wouldn't give up. And then Clive, just as a hero would, he says, because I have this little bit of power left from Ultima, I am wasting all of my power by getting rid of all of the magic, all of the branded, everything is gone. Only people are going to be left. And he does it and dies at the end.
Yeah. And it was exactly like you said. It's what a true hero would do, and he was selfless the entire time. It's one of the reasons why, like, Clive, and I think that a lot of people are going to say that Clive wasn't relatable. The way that Ben Starr played Clive, for me personally, I found very relatable to a certain extent. Like he had humor, he had a very dry wit to him that I thought was funny because it was like he wasn't a laugh out loud character, and he's supposed to be this like strong leading type. And he's always like kind of like his mind is on the directives of where the story is going, but at the same time, like when he's talking to his uncle, for example. Like he'll have quips, or he's talking to Joshua, and then there's interpersonal dialogue in the middle of gameplay. He'll say something, and did he just say that? So he has humor that they've written in him. So he is a fun character in that regard, but he is very much kind of like a leading man. And I think people will come off, and folks who don't pay as close of attention as we do, saying that he's just kind of dry and they didn't really care about him as much. But I do think that the story that they were telling with Clive, and kind of the message that they were sending with him about kind of like the idea of the willpower, and the idea of of equality, like he's looking for equality, and they're having a conversation about slavery too, and the idea that human beings need to find this new dawn where every man is created equal, and like there's no difference between bearers and non-bearers and everything like that. And I think like that is an important message that he was kind of sending there. I liked that he committed so hard to that, to a certain degree, because it was even a conversation he had with Ultima at the end there, where Ultima was like, what is your end game? You realize that nothing good is going to come of your actions. Like, what do you think is going to happen now that all of this is done? And he's like, there's going to be a lot of pain, there's going to be a lot of suffering, but it's going to be what we choose to do as human beings, not what you want to do for us. You're not going to be sitting here as the guiding hand of humanity telling us where we need to go. This is going to be something that humans need to determine for themselves. And I thought that was a great message to send as a character.
Yeah. I wish he would have taken the Jack Garland approach to it when Ultima said, what is your end goal? You know, there's only going to be suffering. I wish he would have been like Jack Garland and said, I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. Bullshit. And then just punches him in the face. Yeah. I need to play Final Fantasy VII. I need to play Final Fantasy Origins. Did you enjoy that game?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I wish they would have leaned into the new metal aspect of it more, have it be more Limp Bizkit-y, Korn, Linkin Parky,
yeah,
all that attitude.
For sure.
But it's still a great game. It's a fun beat. It's a Destiny beat 'em up, if you will.
Really?
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Interesting.
But I love games. I think it's because maybe of my religious upbringing, or the time that I spent in my late teens in the church. I love a good story of let's kill God, because there's so many things that they hit on the head in these stories that you don't think about when you're in the church. Like the whole, they just need to do what I say because I created them and I am the only one that matters and nothing else matters except for me. And then you're
Yeah.
like, no, that's not how things work. That's not, it actually is going against your teachings to be like that. So, and you're not going to let us do what we want. So we have to do whatever we can to stop you from stopping us from doing what we want and need to do. And
Okay.
it always just feels, it just feels so good to just stab God in the stomach and be like, yes, I'm taking your power and resetting everything.
Yeah, no, the idea of let's kill God is always fun when it's pulled off in a fun way. I think that's one of the reasons why it's like it's a little daunting when you get into a FromSoft game and they're like, hey, you're really gonna kill God.
Oh, yeah.
And the God actually like he has something to
Oh,
say
yeah.
back to you whenever you try to like check him. But I like in games like Final Fantasy XVI, I think it's so fun because they take this very like shonen approach to it where it's like, you know, like you have slowly built up your power over time that you're walking around essentially as a demigod of this world as it is already, and you're taking the kind of this moral position, this moral stance upon yourself to go and like subvert the machinations of this, you know, this entity, this being who says he claims that he's created everything here and that you're basically just, you know, you're a resource for him to exploit at his will, which I find is kind of hilarious and very funny and very very anti-Christian,
Oh, yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a religious person as it is, and I think you know, I have talked to a lot of people kind of similar to you, where it's like they grew up in the church, but then after they went to college or they became an adult, obviously they became more secular as time went on. And I just like I think these stories are super engaging. But can we talk about really quick, like the hype of the final, basically the final moment and the fucking line? I posted this on Twitter.
Yes.
The line that fucking
Yes.
Clive says. He says, and I quote, he was like, "The only fantasy here is yours, and we are your final witness." And he fucking slashes his head off. I'm like, yo, like, is it like, it's not like this in every Final Fantasy game, is it? Like,
No.
it's definitely not like this, right?
No.
Okay.
No, like I started when I saw the text pop up from the subtitles, I just started like spamming the picture button to get as many captures of it to make sure that I have physical proof that that is a line in a Final Fantasy game.
I'm fucking dying that they actually said it. And I was on stream and I was streaming and I had people in the chat with me and I was like, they said it. They said the fucking thing. How could they do this to me? I put 90 hours into this game and they said the title of the game. How dare they? No, but it was funny and it was hype and it was like, it made me realize that they know what they're doing. Like, they know what they're doing when they're writing shit like that. And you gotta know that the actors had a blast when they realized that these moments were going on. And
Oh, yeah.
it's only supported and emphasized by the music. We didn't really talk too much about the music, but the music in this final sequence at the end, like the end game and basically any icon battle is just out of this world, just intense and hype and fun in all of the best ways that it can be.
Oh yeah, no. I only remember somewhat the random battle music that you have with the enemies on the field or whatever. For some reason, music never sticks until like way after, and I'm listening and I'm like, holy fuck, this music is actually great. Like,
Yeah.
I was it Crisis? I think it might have been. It was either that game or Crisis Core where I was like, huh. Oh, it was 16 because at the end I sat there and listened and watched the entire credits roll. And I was like, that was a song, and that song was fucking awesome. I'm like, huh. My wife would listen to this while reading her books. And like, oh, this song is also fucking awesome. And I didn't realize how many of these songs were ingrained into my head that I didn't notice at the time. But if I hear them now, I'll be like, oh yeah, that song fucks.
I will say that if, like, since we're on it anyway, one of my issues, one of my complaints with this game is a little bit of the composition and of the music. Like, the songs themselves were great. The songs themselves were wonderful, and they were designed purposefully to like be played on repeat and never really get tired of them. Like, you can listen to them, you know, over and over again, and they were specifically implemented and designed with that understanding in mind. But it made me frustrated because I'm just kind of like sitting here thinking, oh, like this is gonna be a super long, very diverse soundtrack, and it is. There are a lot of songs that are implemented and created originally for Final Fantasy 16, but you hear the song "To Sail Forbidden Seas" every single battle. There is no change up. There's no regional song for it. Every single combat fight, like I'm not gonna do it, but I could hum the melody to you right now, and it's just like they don't ever really change that until you get into like main storyline cutscenes, and I'm just like, oh, that's kind of like a bummer, a little bit of a letdown. Like, it would be nice if they had like 3 separate tracks that, you know, play differently depending on a region or just depending on the encounter that you're in, and just to kind of give a little bit of variety, switch it up just a little bit, because Kingdom Hearts does that in a beautiful way, and Yoko Shimomura is just she's a master of her craft in that regard and making it feel believable. But again, I was curious to ask you as well. You're a legacy Final Fantasy player, and every town that you go to in Final Fantasy has its own themes. Did you feel like the themes in the different towns were like, did they stick out to you at all, or is it kind of lost in the mix?
It's lost in the mix. I am gonna say that I have played 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've played 4. I almost beat 4, which is super crazy because I found that game hard as balls.
Really? Okay.
So yeah. And like, out of all of them, because I spent the most time with, I can pretty much say that the one where the town music is the most defined is in 6. But
okay,
again, because it's the one that I've played the most and I've spent the most time with. If I might say that the songs are different in each town, but they just didn't stick out to me. I don't know if it's because I'm older and I'm not paying attention as much, or if other stuff is catching my attention, or if I'm focusing on something else. But
I don't blame you. Yeah. I don't blame you at all, Chris. I think it's probably a little bit of an issue with the composer. I feel like he failed to, like, he had a really, really cool core theme soundtrack, and he leaned on a lot of the melodies, like the dun 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 dun, like that typical that the legacy sounds that Nobuo Uematsu created for 7, or like Hallmark games like 9. I think like he leaned on a lot of those callback for the melodies to that a lot. But it felt like Find Your Flame, To Sail Forbidden Seas were the 2 iconic music tracks for this game that he used over and over again to different and varying degrees, and it's just like, they were cool songs and I loved them and I love the music overall, but it's just like, it felt like it lacked a little bit of like identity or quirkiness that some of these other games got.
I also feel like I'm blanking, goddamn. The sound mixing in the game was off because I had to go into the options and lower the music and increase the voices, because sometimes during fights you would have Jill or Sid or somebody talking to you during the fight about what's going on, and I couldn't hear shit even with the headphones on. So I had so I had to lower the music and raise the voice because I couldn't understand. So, and I had to do that like maybe 10 hours into the game. So because I had so much more game left, maybe I didn't notice because the music was much lower coming into my headset. Okay, got it. And it's to the point where right now I have to force myself to think about the Final Fantasy XVI battle theme, because when I think Final Fantasy battle theme, I immediately go to either 7 or 6, because they're the ones that are ingrained into my brain. So this one, while it's good, it didn't have as much staying power as previous games as songs.
Okay. Now, another important question for you is something that I've heard in the community from a couple of different people that really bothered them about this game, is the lack of the celebration song after every fight. The da 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 da. Did that bother you at all, that you only got it a couple of times? Like, you maybe got it like 3 or 4 times this whole game.
No, I didn't.
You liked it? That didn't bug you? Okay.
I didn't notice. I didn't notice.
Okay.
That's the problem. I didn't notice.
Yeah. It was really cool because it's like when you got it, it was this deep, like, cool,
like
awesome, like thing because you were like, I just did something there.
Like you cut off,
but I was like,
like you cut off Cupcast's hands. The letters come up. You cut off Cupcast's hands and da 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 da.
Exactly.
Like they would celebrate stuff
so
like
cool.
that. It was great.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it. But to circle back around to the ending of this game, I felt that it was absolutely bittersweet. I liked it just as much as I hated the idea that Clive has to die and that he's not going to be returning in a Final Fantasy 16 2 or something like that. I don't know. Here's that's a real question for you though. Like, I know that Square Enixes want to do this sometimes. They take really popular games like 13 and then 13-2, or I believe there's a 12 and 12-2, right?
There's 12, 12-2, 13, 1, 2, and 3. Final Fantasy VII has Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus, 7, the movie, the anime, and the 2 cell phone. Well, there's like 5 cell phone offshoot games. So
oh my god,
it's a lot of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, they capitalize on like their super popular entries, and obviously the reports came out about this game about the sales for Final Fantasy 16 underperforming Square Enix's expectations, which I think is almost a meme at this point, because every time Square comes out with the game they're like, it didn't meet our expectations. I was like, where the fuck, what are your expectations? Like, what are your analysts looking at if they're not projecting the sales to be at a certain level? And I'm just like, okay, whatever. But because they sold like millions of units like the first week that it came out, and I'm just like, I don't know where, like, what do y'all want to like make this like $1 billion film like the Mario movie? Like, I'm not sure what they're looking for.
The install base is not that big, right? Like you can't,
because it's niche. Final Fantasy is a niche franchise,
and then it's a niche, right? And then on top of that, you kind of alienate the people that love your franchise by turning it into basically a character action game instead of an RPG. So
yeah,
there's layers upon layers of why it didn't hit their sales expectations, even though they still did crazy numbers, like compared to other stuff. And I did enjoy this game a whole lot more than I enjoyed 15. 15 was fine, but in the end, it felt like a massive waste of time that went nowhere.
Okay.
This game was like, holy fuck the entire time, except for, when you were at the hideout doing stuff. And people should play this game because it's good. If they would have gone a little bit further and called this a Final Fantasy story or a completely different name instead of Final Fantasy, I feel like it would have done a whole lot better. Because you have, because you have Octopath Traveler selling like crazy. You have Bravely Default selling like crazy. You have fucking Live Alive, a remake of a long lost game selling like crazy. Like, Square is like pumping out games that are selling like crazy, but then they sell like this massive franchise name having ass game, and it doesn't sell what they want because it's not what the fans want from the series. Like, a name change would do a whole lot for it.
Yeah, and because I'm not a fan, I'm so curious as to like why, because the initial there was a little bit of feedback that I heard on Twitter where people were like, this is not a Final Fantasy game. And I would say, like, I don't know what you're considering a Final Fantasy game, but it says it on the fucking title, and it's got crystals, and it's got summons, and it's got icons, and it's got Cid, and it's got a big fucking ship that is like, that is created throughout the game. So it sounds like a fucking Final Fantasy game to me. It's got all the legacy pieces of a Final Fantasy
Moogles,
game. I just think like,
I'm not sure if it has Tonberries, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, you got chocobos. So like the bare minimum, you got chocobos, and as long as you got a bow in the game, that like, it's a Final Fantasy to me. So it's just, I know that they probably played with people's ideas. Like, I know 15 was that. Correct me if I'm wrong. 15 is that same combat system that Final Fantasy VII Remake uses, where it's this mixture between real-time combat and turn-based selections. Is that right?
15?
Or am I wrong? Yeah.
15, I played it mostly real-time combat, but I think you can issue like commands. I think it's kind of a little bit different than the what's it called? Than the turn-based Final Fantasy VII remake mode. Because you can like issue like the commands and stuff like that. I think it's something like that.
Yeah, because in 7 Remake, you can absolutely just switch in between one character to the next mid-fight, and like there's a lot of versatility, and you can slow time to use a spell and sort of thing. So they keep the core components of that turn-based combat in 7 in there. I was just curious as to see if like there was any type of, because I feel like when people say this isn't real Final Fantasy, they're talking about the combat and they're talking about the gameplay loop of the game, and I just feel like that's not a really valid critique of the game as a whole and of like the system in of itself. Yes, it's much closer to Devil May Cry than it is probably the legacy Final Fantasy games. I was just curious if 15 was the direction the combat was trending to for us to get to the point where 16 is now, or if they're completely separate totally from each other.
It's been kind of like going that way since maybe 13. I only played the intro to 13 and hopped off because it just didn't feel right. There was something about the combat that I didn't like, but I feel like it's just been going that way ever since. I think the days of turn-based Final Fantasy are long gone.
It's over.
Yeah,
it's done.
I think it's done. Yeah. But, there's still Dragon Quest. There's still Octopath. There's still Bravely Default if you want your turn-based. There's still Persona. She got a new
There's
Persona.
Still fucking Fire Emblem, baby. Yeah, there's new Persona 3 Reloaded is coming out. You can play Fire Emblem 3 Houses for 200 fucking hours. Strap that Nintendo Switch to your hands if you want turn-based combat.
But yeah, no. So, like I said, this game was a 9 for me, 9 out of 10, and I absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, I'm trading it in on Friday for Armored Core, but I will put it back in my collection eventually at some point. But for
that's
now,
on later date. Okay,
for now it's going away. Oh.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm one of the sickos that's building his digital library. I know that all of my physical media friends that are out there are probably shaking in their boots when I say that, but no, I buy like 99% of the stuff digital now, whether I'm buying it on Steam or if I'm buying it through the PlayStation library. For Nintendo products, I will always buy like the hardcover like cases, just because Nintendo products have so much more lasting power. And you never know when they're going to take that storefront away from you, or when they're going to take that ability to play the game away from you. So it's always smart, for that to do it. And I don't know if Sony will ever edge into that territory, but for now, I have to agree with you. Final Fantasy 16 is just an incredible game from top to bottom. I'm going to have to stay strong at the 8.5 rating scale, which I think I gave other similar games this year that I thought were great. I gave that same rating to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I actually rated Diablo 4 0.5 points lower. I gave it a solid 8. But 16, my enjoyment and my love for that game, for moments of those incredible fights and the just some of the most incredible voice acted scenes, it pushes it up to that upper echelon for me. So yeah, I gotta say this is a must play. This is a mandatory must play this year, and this is going to be in the Game of the Year conversation at the Keighley Awards.
Personally, for me, this is not a Game of the Year game. Okay. Jedi Survivor is, because...
Let's go, Chris. See, this is why I love you, buddy. Like, this is... you're speaking my language right now. Star Wars for Game of the Year. I'm
going to be honest, Starfield is probably not going to be on my Game of the Year list either, unless it's above and beyond what they are saying it's going to be, because right now what they're saying doesn't convince me.
Really? Okay.
Right now, the best game that I've played the entire year has been Pikmin 4. That
okay.
That scratched so many itches, and it lasted for like 40 hours, and it was incredible from start to end. So I can't wait to see what else comes out this year, because I'm having a ton of fun playing everything that's coming out, man.
Oh my God. We're just, we've said it on so many different shows before, and we say it every other show on the Friday Night Gamecast, but we are as gamers, we are just spoiled for content now. We have everything we could possibly want and more.
Oh yeah.
And it's only gonna get better from here on out, because you're looking at, obviously, Armor Core 6 is coming to us this coming Friday. And then we get, very shortly after that, Starfield. My collector's edition is already shipped.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to collecting, that. And then obviously Spider-Man 2 is coming out. Spider-Man 2, I have my eye very closely honed in on as being something that could, overtake Final Fantasy 16 or potentially Starfield for Game of the Year, or even Zelda. I think Zelda's again in that conversation as well. I don't know how far that will make it, but I'll say right now, there were wonderfully high moments of Tears of the Kingdom, but there were I enjoyed a lot more of Final Fantasy 16 than I did of Zelda, even though it's a different type of love. It's like your love for apples and oranges, but still, like, Final Fantasy 16 just makes it that much higher for me.
Right. Yep. That is 100% true for me too. Now, I know that you're going to do a Final Fantasy 16 episode with Eric and Rick.
That's correct. Yeah, Eric, Rick, and Kelvin and Rob are joining me. We're putting a panel together to get a lot of voices on. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, so we're getting all that done.
Okay,
it's going to be fun editing that for sure.
Oh yeah. That's going to be crazy. I can't wait to listen to that. But other than that future episode that I'm sure everybody's going to love because of the fucking absolute geniuses that you have on, because Rick is a whole fucking brain, and Eric is just absolutely nuts about Nomura and everything he does. I can't wait to see what they all say. What else can you tell me about Friday Night Gamecast that we don't know from the episode that I was on?
Yeah, so for listeners that are tuning in on this show, the Friday Night Gamecast we are dedicated towards really, really honing in on the content of Will and I being two best friends that are sharing our love for video games together and making it a book club style podcast, in terms of every week we're going to come together and compare our opinions. We're going to talk about reviews, ratings. We're going to talk about news. We're going to give our impressions on games that we're currently playing. And we switch it up quite often. Some episodes will feature guests like Chris and Carradine to talk about specific topics that are relevant to the game industry. So they came on last time to our show to talk about how you can successfully have a relationship and be a gamer at the same time. And we answered some of those questions that some people really they're struggling to find, especially in the modern era of 2023. But we pick a new topic every week to talk about. I'll give a little spoiler for our listeners now, since as of the day's recording on Friday, we're going to be talking that for the episode that's releasing on Friday, we're talking about legendary voices in gaming part 2. So part 1, we talked about legendary female voices to highlight some incredible female actors. And then part 2, we're throwing the bag in with everybody in. So that's just a good example of what we're coming out with. And then occasionally what I will do, since I'm kind of a little bit of the showrunner in terms of kind of programming the content, I like to put on full dedicated reviews of some of my favorite games of the year. Obviously, we listened, I'm waiting for Will to play Resident Evil 4 at some point this year so we can do a review for that, but we did Dead Space earlier this year, and I'm planning on doing both Final Fantasy 16 and Tears of the Kingdom, so keep your ears and eyes out for those coming out. But yeah, that's a Friday Night Gamecast if you want to go check us out over on Twitter.
Oh, it's great. It's one of my favorites. It's basically the only show I listen to on Fridays, because if I have to go to work, I'll listen Friday going to work and coming back. If I don't go to work on Friday, then I listen to it all day Monday. So
okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. We hit those both of those times.
Oh yeah. So either or, it's gonna get listened to. But I am not a big mobile gaming person on phones. I don't. As shitty as this sounds, I don't really see it as gaming because of the predatory aspects that it has. But you and Will put on such an entertaining episode. Like I said on Twitter, leave it to you two to make such an uninteresting topic be interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. The appeal of mobile games, it's a tough concept, I think, to sell people. But and I talk about this kind of towards the end of the episode. And thank you also for your kind words about the show, Chris. That means so much to hear anybody say that in terms of feedback. It really means a lot, and it helps me, reaffirm that what we're doing is good and we're putting out good content for folks. But yeah, the whole mobile game episode, that's our newest episode on the feed right now. It's hard for me too, because I'm the same way as you, and I talk about it in the episode explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about how I see mobile gaming, it is a symptom of a business that is seen as very profitable. And unfortunately, the end result of it being not something that is dedicated towards fans of content, it's dedicated towards making money, is that it is exactly just a microtransaction laden hell that you see in so many games. Does that mean that there aren't brilliant mobile games to be found? Not at all. Because there are super fun games out there. I've fallen prey to some of the bullshit, and that's done willingly as a consenting adult. So that's something that I have to, I have to resolve within myself. But at the same time, there's some really cool stuff out there that you have to look for. But yeah, don't sleep on Apple Arcade, because Apple Arcade will give you some really cool stuff if you're willing to. If you have some type of deal through your credit card or a membership that you can get for free. I think they offer free trials occasionally too. So Apple Arcade will give you access to stuff like Sayonara Wild Hearts, or some other really cool entries that will not necessarily charge you and fee you to death throughout it. But yeah, that's just an example of how we love so much of this industry that we got to share it with y'all.
Oh yeah. Now you mentioned in the episode the Dragon Ball Z Legends game. I thought for a second that you were going to talk about Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. That's the one where you collect the characters and then you build your party, right. And then that one specifically, when you open it, it has a message from Hercule saying, we offer paid transactions, but they're not necessary for you to pay to win. So we're not forcing you to buy it, and don't force us to do whatever. And we'll have a good time. Basically, is what it says.
Yeah.
And I've loved that always since I started playing it back in 2013 when it came out. Oh man, that's the only one that I've kept up with, because I even dropped out of Marvel Puzzle Quest. Because Marvel Puzzle Quest. Yeah, that was big for a while. But
yeah, I mean, there's Marvel Snap, Marvel Strike Force. There's a bunch of different options that are out there. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z Legends, what a letdown. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, the same as Chris is, and it made me disgusted to look at this game and just see what they're doing to some of these characters, and just kind of the blatant microtransaction loot box hell that game is. And it's a perfect example of what to stay away from and what to look for in mobile games, where it's they'll lock you to a certain amount of resources, and they have 20 different currencies that you have to do 8 different things to start farming over time, and you're just I'm good. No. And yeah, it's you gotta you also have to sit back and because I often have the problem, just because of who I am. I'm a little bit of a snob. I'm a little bit of an elitist, and I'm you don't own a PlayStation 5 yet, you plebeian. What's wrong with you? Legitimately forgetting that there are people out there. I was talking to a friend of mine who said that she still had her Xbox 360. And that she was playing on her Xbox. I don't know why you would play on Xbox 360 nowadays, but I've met people who legitimately are still playing on Xbox One X's or Xbox One S's, and that's their main gaming console. And so you have to take a step back and look at the broader picture of, we're very much a niche audience within the gaming industry that is going to seek out the best in the brightest and stuff, and then some people just have access to mobile games, but it doesn't make them any less valid gamers than console or PC gamers, for sure.
Hey, at least if you get something out of the episode, is play Vampire Survivors because it's free. It's not microtransaction or loot box or anything like that. You get what you get when you download the game, and that's it. So
I will warn people though. I don't know if there are any like trophies that are attached to Vampire Survivors on the mobile platform, but goddamn, like don't get caught in that trophy loop because you'll do nothing. You'll be that's one of those games where like that's a scary game. Because I accidentally stayed up until 4:00 in the morning playing that,
I've
and
done
I had
that
to
multiple
travel to
times.
work the next day, and it was on accident. And I was just like, "Oh, one more round," and they're 30-minute matches, and you're like, "Jesus Christ, has my life gone?" After 8 hours of Vampire Survivors.
So I introduced my brother-in-law to it over the weekend, and he was like, I'm just going to stay here and we're going to play Vampire Survivors nonstop because it's 2-player on Switch, and holy shit, fucking awful.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's that does not seem like an enjoyable time.
No, he's telling his girlfriend, "Oh, when we get home, I'm going to download this on Xbox and we're going to play it." I'm like, "Oh fuck, I created a monster."
Oh, yep. Yeah, you did. You threw him down that black hole. So you need to atone, Chris.
Yeah, I'll atone. So let's go ahead and wrap this up because we're already at almost 2 hours and a half when this was supposed to be an hour long.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that. Okay.
It's cool. So Friday Night Gamecast on every streaming platform.
Exactly. So any podcast catcher out there, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or Good Pods, we are the Friday Night Gamecast, and you can find us all there. And if you want to find us over on what was formerly known as Twitter.com, we are at FNGC Pod.
Yep, they are. And what's Will's handle in case they want to follow him?
Yeah, if you want to reach out to Will, he's my co-host with the most, and he's at Real King Zozotai, and I'll shoot our link tree to Chris, so you guys can have access to him there. But yeah, so you can find him over on there, and then if you want to interact with me personally on Twitter, I'm at Nikolai at Night.
Perfect. So that all of those links will be on the show notes, and you guys should head on over there, listen to everything because it is fan-fucking-tastic. So that's it for this episode of Games and Stuff, a little bit of a longer one, but hey, thank you for paying for listening to this if you're not hearing this on the free main feed, because I'm going to try to release this somewhere where it doesn't step on Nick's toes because I want his episode with all of those amazing people to get all of the lessons too. So
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
That's it. Everybody go pay for the highest tier at the upcoming Novel Console Patreon that they're going to be developing. So, and make sure to follow Chris at everywhere. But I've had a blast, man. Thank you again so much for having me on. And it's been super enjoyable. So this is a great primer for me to get my creative juices flowing.
All right. Sounds great, man. Sounds great. All right. So that's it for this week's episode. You want to say goodbye, Nick?
See ya. Adios.
Goodbye, everyone.